Well, I've had a bit of a love-hate relationship with this A36. Stick around and we'll see if things tip back to the love side with the A36SE. The Talkpod A36HT has been around a while. Over the past couple of years, I've had a bit of a love-hate relationship with this little guy. Some of that has been my fault, but there's enough blame to go around. Let me explain. The Talkpod A36 came out about a year or two ago and was marketed in the U.S. as a GMRS radio. They made no secret that it was easily converted into a ham radio with a specific power-on keystroke sequence. As a GMRS radio, it was well received, but numerous ham reviewers pointed out the spurious emissions on the 2-meter band were terrible. With that in mind, I passed on getting one. A couple of reviewers did follow-on reviews stating that the A36 emissions had been fixed, and I ordered an A36 Plus in December of 2023. The one I got still had atrocious signal purity in the 2-meter band, and even after an email exchange with a Talkpod representative, I was unhappy and sent it back. Now, to be fair, the radio has a GMRS FCC certification, and I'll assume it meets those signal requirements. Even in the ham bands, the 70-centimeter requirements are different from those in the 1.25 and 2-meter bands. The often referred to limits for radios transmitting 25 watts or less, having harmonics at least 40 dBs below the fundamental and less than 25 microwatts, stop at 225 megahertz. But with Talkpod's tacit approval via easy radio unlocking, I was still unhappy with the 2-meter signal. That brings us to today and the Talkpod A36SE model. As we jump into the review, let me first welcome you to this Gadget Talk video. On this channel, we do reviews and how-tos on mostly GMRS and ham topics. If you find this video helpful, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to click the notification bell too. For something new, be sure to click the join button after watching this video to see a short video describing why you might want to become a channel member. You commit to nothing by clicking that first join button, and I really appreciate it. Now, on with the review. The A36SE has a slightly different case with some different curves and things like where the microphone hole is on the faceplate and the lanyard attachment point. That indicates there have been some changes to the underlying circuit board. What's the same is the published receiver ranges, including AM airband, plus a bunch of additional frequency ranges. It can access NOAA weather broadcasts, and it's USB-C rechargeable, despite the fact that it comes with a desktop charger too. The kit doesn't come with a programming cable as previous models did. I have several cables, so that's not a problem. If this is your first radio, I'd recommend an FTDI programming cable. The FTDI refers to the chip in the A side of the cable and the drivers it uses in Windows. Speaking of the CPS, the Talkpod website has the CPS for various Talkpod models as well as firmware upgrades. I'm a big fan of user-upgradable firmware on these little radios, so for me, things are starting to shift to the love side. But then, right out of the box, there were a couple of issues. With the loaded version 1.24 firmware, the radio comes programmed with the FRS channels as well as the GMRS channels. Now, the FRS are narrowband and have different power limits. When downloaded into the CPS, all the channels, including GMRS, are set to narrowband and have DCS codes assigned. That means you have to go through all the channels to delete all the FRS channels and delete all the DCS codes and set all the channels except 8 through 14 to wide FM or W, not N or narrow FM. I'd also recommend using the Talkpod CPS or Chirp to do that. Otherwise, you'll be tied up for hours. Next, the offset for the repeater channels is set wrong. Instead of a plus 5 MHz offset, it has a plus 3 MHz offset. That means there are effectively no repeater channels since GMRS repeaters are listening on 467 MHz frequencies, not 465. In this photo, I've started to make changes in Chirp. When I downloaded the new configuration from Chirp with the proper offsets, the radio accepted them and I was able to access nearby GMRS repeaters. After playing with the radio for a while, I decided to update the firmware to the newest version. That worked pretty slick. I downloaded the bootloader software and the proper firmware for the A36SE 5-watt radio. I'll put a link to the software in the description below. After extracting the files, I started the bootloader. Click the 3 dots at the top and navigate to and select the firmware file you just downloaded. Plug the radio into a programming cable attached to your computer. Note the proper COM port in the device manager and select that port in the small drop-down box in the bootloader. Then, just click the automatic update. It takes less than a minute. The update really didn't fix the things I've been discussing here so far, but it did include other updates. Last, despite claims and an FCC ID number that this is a GMRS radio, I was able to go to frequency mode and transmit on ham frequencies in the GMRS mode. I was able to program a 2-meter repeater with the proper offset and transmit, though I shouldn't have been able to do that. The Talkpod website has some articles describing how to unlock the radio, and they refer to themselves as pushing the boundaries of radio communications technology. That appears to mean playing fast and loose with the FCC rules. Now, I've got no problem with radios that can be switched out of GMRS mode and into an unlocked mode. Responsible operators will work within the limits of their license. But when the radio is in GMRS mode, it shouldn't transmit on other frequencies. The whole point of GMRS radios is that operators don't need to understand bands, frequencies, and offsets. They should be able to just open the box, set a channel, turn it on, and talk. Okay, rant over. Let's see what you get and do a quick exterior tour. So here's the box that the Talkpod A36SE comes in, and you can see it's labeled as a GMRS portable transceiver. Let's take a look at what comes with it. It's not very much, but it's what you need for the radio to work. The first thing we look at here is the charge cradle that comes with the Talkpod. It's got a little LED there, the label, and it's hardwired in, and this particular one has got the US type 120 volt plug. And then there's the wrist lanyard right here. I find those pretty handy. I put them on most of my radios. And then the belt clip. And what's interesting about this belt clip as compared to some others is that it snaps in, so that's pretty handy. And so here's the radio itself. It comes with the battery here, which comes off very easily. And you can see that it is a 14.8 volt or 2-cell LiPo style battery, and its capacity is 1500 milliamp. And it goes on just very, very easily. And so we'll snap the battery back on by clicking it in the bottom clips and then just pressing down on these little releases. And now the battery is connected. Here's the snap-on sleeve for the belt clip that I just mentioned. Access to the K1 connector right there. And then the antenna. And I've been using this, so the antenna is connected, but we'll take it off here. You'll see that it is a female antenna. The male end is here in the radio itself. On the side, we've got push to talk, side key 1, side key 2, and alarm key or programmable key number 3 up there on the top. The microphone is over here, which is a little different on this radio from the previous versions of the Talkpod. I think they were up here in the corner. It's got a nice large screen, and then the typical keyboard that allows you to do most of the things that these kind of small radios will do. So that's a quick tour of the radio. Let's finish this up by looking at the user's guide, such as it is. So in this case, we've got the user guide, and it's really just one piece of paper. And most of that is the list of all the menus, information about the frequencies and the DCS codes. So if you're new to this kind of radio, there's not a lot of help here, but fortunately it does work pretty much the same as all the other budget class radios do. Now, let's also do a power on tour. So let's turn the radio on and take a look at some of the features that the radio has. Comes up and announces channel mode. And you can see that I have it set for the dual receive. And so I've got channel GMRS channel 22 on the top, GMRS channel 21 on the bottom. And just as we look at this display, you can see here it says H for high power, and that's going to kind of lead us naturally into the side key buttons to see what's going on here. So if we press the top side key button once, short press, turns on the FM radio receiver, a long press, changes the power, and that's pretty handy. So you can go from high to low power just with a long press on the upper side key. The lower side key turns on scanning. A long press goes into monitor mode. That hissing is the monitor mode right there. Okay, so I'm going to go back to channel 22 because it scanned up away from that. So we'll go 0, 2, 1 on the top, and we'll press the AB button, which moves control to the lower register. We'll go 0, 2, 2. So I've got those same 2 channels selected, although they're in a different register than what they were a minute ago. And then the other thing is up here at the top, we can press a short press on this little orange button, and when the weather program comes on.
Including the greater Phoenix area, it was sunny with a temperature of 88 at Buckeye.
And another short press will turn that off. So that's all pretty good. Obviously, the up and down buttons will change this. It says main there. That's the one that's primary. So if you press to talk to transmit, it's going to go out on that register. Press it again to move it up there. Now, the menu system on this is not described very well, besides listing the 53 menu items that the radio has, but it works the same as all these other little small radios. And so you press the menu key, and then you can see the menu there, and then you can press to change. So this is the A36 Plus firmware 1.25. I've upgraded the firmware. It was easy to do. I talk about it here within the review. After a few seconds, the menu will go away. So let's go to menu item 9. I don't know what 9 is, but we can go there directly just by pressing the number. And so that's transmitter dual receive. It's item 9. Now to make a change, you just press the menu key again, and then notice there's a voice that announces what the menu is, but it doesn't announce the choices. And so we can go to off or on, and whatever's red is what's selected. So I want it on, so I press menu again, and it confirms that it's transmitter dual receive. And so all of your programming tasks throughout all these menus work the same. Exit the menu by pressing the back key or the red key here on the radio. Now, the other thing, if we want to go into VFO mode, is we're going to press the menu key long. So you can go into frequency mode, and this is one of my gripes. This is the ham VHF calling channel. When I took this out of the box, if I pressed transmit, it would, and it ought not. I did go in and use the keystroke to expand, so if I press transmit now, it will, but I've told it to, so I can't complain about that. But also, if we want to go into the airband, for example, we can type in a frequency. And so it goes into that frequency, and you can see AM automatically comes up there. And as you'll hear in the audio from my trip to the airport. It sounds really good for a little radio like this. The other frequency bands you access the same way. So if you wanted to go up into the 1.25 meter band, you go. And so it goes up into there. 350 is one of the bands. I don't know what's up there, but it'll tune it. And as we can see, there was something broadcasting up there. And then, of course, we can go into the 440 band, which is where GMRS is, but the ham band's down. And it'll tune into those as well. And so, and then another long press here on the menu drops us back into channel mode, where we can go through all the channels that we have set up in the radio. So that's a quick power on tour of the Talkpod A36SE. At this point, let's do a couple of audio tests. I'll head over to a nearby airport and see if the air band is as good as many people have reported, and record what it sounds like.
Tiffany Tower, Arizona 844 on 118.4.
844 to Tower, roger. Continue left traffic, runway 25 left.
Continue left traffic, runway 25 left, Arizona 844.
185, tree Zulu, wind variable at 5, visibility 10, sky clear, temperature tree 8, dew point 18, altimeter 29er, 96, visual approach in use, landing and departing, runway 25 left, and runway 25 right.
Test, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Transmit test on the Talkpod A36. Test, 1, 2, 3. Receive test on the Talkpod A36. Test, 1, 2, 3. Test.
I thought the audio on the A36SE was pretty good. The AM airband reception was better than many of the small HTs I've tested. Now, let's check out power output. So let's take a look at this power output here on this Talkpod A36SE. And you see I've got it going into my MFJ 874, and I've got it set to forward, meeting the power, and on the 5-watt scale. So on high power, channel 22, GMRS, let's see what we get. Got about 2.8 on high power. And so now here's low power on GMRS channel 22. And it looks like there on that bottom arc, we're going to run at about 0.4 watts. So 0.4 on low, 2.8. Not atypical for these budget class radios, maybe a little on the low side, but certainly doable in most basic GMRS situations. The next thing I want to do is check out the Talkpod CPS. It's pretty basic, but has tools to add a custom screen picture, which is kind of cool. So here's a quick look at the Talkpod CPS. It looks pretty much like all the rest of these manufacturer-provided CPS. Up here across the top are drop-down menus, many of which are duplicated right here. So here we've, file, new, open, save, and so forth. Edit gives you the display windows for what you can edit. Here is where we get reading from and writing to the radio. Settings, port, tools, and help. Now, a couple things we need to do first. We go first to settings to port, and then we want to set the COM port that the cable is recognized. And I know by looking at my device manager, it's COM port 3. I'm going to click OK. Then over here, I want to mention before I forget, this has got an image import tool. So again, you select COM port 3. And then you can import a 128 by 128 pixel image. That will be the screen image when the radio turns on. That's kind of cool. So with the settings port selected, then we're going to read from the radio. I've got the radio plugged in, and I've got the cable plugged into a USB port on my computer. So we'll read from the radio. We'll hit start. And you can see it downloads. On the radio, the little LED is flashing red because it's sending information out. Now, what we want to edit is the channel information, and you can see that display is now filled. And I have taken out all those FRS channels. I've taken out all of the DCS codes. And while it's tedious, it's not hard. And then I have moved these GMRS channels up to number 1. So here are the channels that I have. And then now to add a channel, all we're going to do is like I've done here. I clicked and added the 462.725. I added the proper offset 467.725. That's a plus 5 megahertz. Put in the DCS code for transmit, which accesses this repeater, and then gave it a name. And so that really is very easy. And so as many as you have you want to add in here, you can do that just by typing in the number or the frequency for what you would normally see in the display of your radio. So the receive frequency right here. So the other thing here we can do is we can go to edit and we can go to optional features, and this opens up a different window. And then this window offers you many of the menu settings. So timeout timer, if I want to change it to say 90 seconds, that's when it's going to turn off if I were to sit on the push to talk button, that kind of thing. Squelch level 3 works for me most of the time. Vox is set to off. The auto backlight is off. I've got it set to channel mode in A and B. That's the 2 register, the upper and lower register of the radio. In the channel display, I've got a channel and the name, so it's going to read GMRS 1 or GMRS 6, and then over on the side it's going to give the channel. DTMF I've got set to off. I usually don't use that. And then here I can set my side keys, which is where I've done that. So short on side key 1 gives me FM, long on side key 1 gives me transmitter power and the things that we demonstrated in that power on review. And then here we can set the logo to come up, or we can set up voltage, and then things like the tail noise clear, auto lock, and all of this stuff can be set. Having chirp compatibility is a big plus for many users. Not only can you add chirp's stock configurations, you can also transfer in channels you've programmed into other radio brands using chirp's copy and paste functions. Now, for the elephant in the room. Is the radio clean in the 2-meter band for ham use? As you can see in these photos taken using my Tiny SA, it's better than its predecessors, but it is still off by a little. All the spurs were below the 25 microwatt levels, but the second harmonic was a little less than 40 dB below the fundamental. Keep in mind I'm using consumer-grade measuring equipment and I'm not in some RF-sealed room. If you're a GMRS operator, you aren't transmitting on the ham bands, and so it's no big deal. Hopefully, GMRS is why you want this radio. If you're a ham, though, there are probably better alternatives. So, with all this in mind, should this be your first GMRS radio? Well, no. GMRS is designed for non-radio techies to get a radio, turn it on, and talk. This isn't that radio. Additionally, the user's manual is, well, wanting. If you're new to GMRS radios, you'll likely be totally flummoxed. It lists the GMRS frequencies and the menu items, but that's about it. If you have some GMRS radios already and have mastered radio programming, or have a friend who has, then this might work for you. As mentioned in the intro to this video, I've had a love-hate relationship with the A36. The A36SE has improved my overall feeling for the radio, but it still isn't my steady girlfriend. As always, please subscribe to the Gadget Talk channel and like the video so YouTube will offer it to others. Here's my GMRS playlist with more GMRS reviews and how-tos. Thanks for watching.